Welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. On this episode, we're talking about the Blight. Rand and company are leaving Faldara, going into the Blight. They're suffering the deadly fauna and the floral as it crushes them, getting them closer and closer to death, when finally Moraine pulls them into the refuge of the Green Man.
Hello, we are the Doctors Who podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Chip.
My name is Brian.
And we are covering chapters 48 and 49 of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. This is, I think we mentioned it last time, but this is kind of the Jordan Lanch. Can we use that word?
I'd say so, yeah.
But you really feel like the dominoes are starting to fall. Everything's coming into place for that final conflict. And they finally get to what Moraine has been pushing them to for most of the book. Albeit not intentionally, because she didn't make the Eye of the World connection until after the party regrouped.
That's true.
True.
Anyway,
True. Yeah.
Why don't we jump right in? Go, Chip.
Sure. So chapters 48 and 49. So there's chapter 48. There's not a lot that's really happening here. It's really just them leaving Faldara. But I really like the way Jordan wrote kind of the slow burn in the Blight. So they leave. Everything kind of seems okay. They've got this group of lances with them. And even Rand, I think, at one point is like, where's the Blight? This isn't such a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But just this slow, then there's the smell and the heat, and things just slowly degrade. And it's kind of that good escalation of danger that we saw quite a few chapters ago with Perrin, Egwene, and the Ravens, when they kept getting chased by the I think it was chased by the Ravens, but it's just this escalation of stuff. So by the time they camp at the end of 48 and they move into 49, and the Blight really starts, all the creatures start attacking them, even the trees are attacking things, and then all of a sudden everything stops and Lan's like, it's the worms. And my mind went to the worms from Dune, so I'm thinking these giant sandworm type things that are going to come after them. And then all of a sudden Rand kind of has this, maybe a channeling moment again, and they find themselves in this lush green paradise that with the Green Man. And so I don't know, it's just this slow build to kind of where they ultimately end up, and it's really well done.
Yeah, I think there was a really good feel for, the environment slowly crushing them. Sometimes you have your, man versus man versus animal. Well, this is nature versus man, and you can feel nature is definitely winning. But I also like the slight character build here, and I know we talked about this beforehand, but Lan and Nynaeve's relationship that happens, some of the building that goes on, I'm kind of getting a soft spot for Nynaeve in all of this. It feels like she is in this for all the right reasons, and she's kind of getting caught up and has just a very emotional moment with Lan, and I thought that was really sweet here. Just great for her character, and with everything we know about Lan, I'm beginning to wonder, what else is in his past? He is the king, and so what brings him?
Lord of the Seven Towers.
And 6 other titles.
Right.
The Golden Crane. Anyway.
Yeah.
So the entire building of the environment is fantastic, and I'm interested to know more about these worms. I wonder if they make more appearances later, but I guess we'll find out at some point.
All right, so yeah, like both of you, this, just the gradual reveal of the decay. There's one point where Nynaeve mentions the weather feels wrong, and Rand is like, oh yeah, you know what? I can feel that too, which is, I think, a connection they both have to the One Power. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go into slight spoiler territory here and say that one of Nynaeve's gifts that we find out about later is that she has an affinity for weather. She her talents lend itself toward obviously healing, right? But also weather, if I remember. I might be wrong.
But we've already established that she's got skills with nature,
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
weather would
for
make
sure.
sense.
So, but the fact that she says that and Rand's like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. So those kind of things I really enjoy picking out. It's like Jordan's planting the seeds, nature, get it, very early on because he has taken the time to plan every aspect of this book out, which I appreciate. But as they get further into the Blight, what I really enjoyed was like, the gradual from Rand saying, "Oh, it's not that bad," to like the stench being so overwhelming that Matt's throwing up, and everybody seems to be affected except Lan, who grew up here, and Perrin, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
So, because I would think as as somebody who's kind of adopting some of the characteristics of wolves, his sense of smell might be more acute, so he might pick up these things more. But then I think about the fact that my dog eats her own poop. And I read somewhere that a dog's nose doesn't smell like one thing. Like we smell a roast beef or we smell poop and we just smell that. But like their noses actually like break down the different things that are in there and they can smell like those different components separately. So I put way too much thought into that, but it was still very interesting.
Yeah.
And then, obviously we see the remains of the Seven Towers, which is really cool. And I really like how he enters into this, the Blight starts attacking them. And it does feel like that Raven scene with Perrin and Egwene earlier, where, the threat's there, but then it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know that I necessarily inferred a channeling moment from Rand, but I suppose it's possible. I should go back and look.
We can talk about it because there's a paragraph
Okay.
in there that makes me think
All
that
right.
he had something to do with it. But
Well, why don't we just do that?
sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's our podcast. We
Lay-
do what we want.
To lay some knowledge on us, Chip.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, I think it was at the end of 49, right?
Would you like to borrow the book?
Well, there's a point where, okay, so the quote from the book is, it says Rand, and it's a Rand point of view, but he says, it says, "Seeking the flame in the void, he railed at himself. Fool, you frightened, cowardly fool, you can't stay here, and you can't go back. Are you going to leave Egwene to face it alone?" The void eluded him, forming, then shivering into 1,000 points of light, reforming and shattering again, each point burning into his bones until he quivered with the pain and the thought
Okay.
he must
Yep.
burst open. "Light, help me, I can't go on. Light, help me." And then all of a sudden they were out of the Blight and
So
with the Green Man.
Yes.
something I just had a thought. What if it was not Moraine's need that summoned the Green Man? Is that where you were going with that?
Well, that's where I was going. Is
yeah.
this
Yeah.
the will of the wheel? The wheel's
Well,
weaving,
but
and Rand has the need.
The Green Man, it said, cannot be found
More
Twice.
than once.
more
yeah.
than once by the same person.
And we know
So
it
what
wasn't
if
Loyal that triggered it this time,
Right.
but I think it was this.
You think it was Rand?
I think it was Rand
Okay.
and the
I think
need
so,
that he
too.
had.
That's an excellent takeaway.
Good
That's-
point.
So-
That's a really good point.
Good job, Chip.
Thanks.
Well done.
Yeah. Man, that's a good thing we
That's
brought
my
you
one.
along.
I'll check out and I'll see you guys later.
No, you haven't finished your mead.
Okay.
By the way, tonight's episode is brought to you by, what is it?
Big Lost.
Big Lost Meadery. We are drinking the Sweet Dame Lemon Mead with Ginger.
It's
Highly recommended at 15%.
very tasty.
I enjoyed... Yeah, I talked about this, but really just like how... Think of the Blight as an onion, and like Jordan kind of peels away the layers, and as you get deeper and deeper into this onion, it gets worse and worse. I think it just, he does a great job kind of painting that picture.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's... Nobody likes to throw up. I am willing to state that as a fact. Nobody likes to vomit.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And every time you read about like a stench being so bad that somebody's like doubled over puking until they don't have any left, and then they're doing it again, you're just like, oh God, I feel for them.
Matt must have a weak constitution because he vomited in the ways too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I feel like
So-
he's...
he's like my
He's
5-year-old.
struggling.
But
Ooh, yeah.
is he still under the... Well, I mean, he still is negatively impacted by the Ruby Dagger.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that he is
Yeah.
not a full
Yeah.
person.
Mhm.
I wonder if...
Somehow that's affecting him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Might be.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because it sounded like he was pretty stout back in Emonds Field. I mean, the three of them
Right.
were
Yeah.
all pretty...
But he had that weak moment, but they also had the quick moment with the bow and like pulling the
Oh,
bow
yeah.
and drawing it on some
was
creature
really
and
You know,
the good job, sheep herder.
Because
Yeah.
Okay, so that was really cool because you have, you know, Matt coming through in a clutch situation.
mhm.
You have one of these sheep herders, like, over the course of this book, they are now to the point where their reflexes are able to react to the situations they're in.
Yeah.
And this actually happens. And to get that kind of praise from Lan,
That's impressive.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's what, 3 words, but it's still so good.
Well, and it almost seemed like Lan was almost surprised by what... Did it seem to you like he was surprised? Or like, because when he rode off into the forest and came back, it almost seemed like he was maybe a little unawares on how bad the Blight was in that area. I don't know. It seemed unusual for the Lan to be caught off guard.
Yeah.
And maybe it
Yeah.
was just... And of course everyone has their moments. He had just come back from his time with Nynaeve the night before.
And maybe he really had to poop and he was looking for a place to do it.
Oh, that's
and,
possible,
you know,
too.
That totally takes me out of my element.
I like
Yeah.
when writers bring that element of dedication to their craft.
Dedication or defecation?
Oh.
Dedicated
Oh.
defecation.
I'm going to stop now.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Stop there.
Jeez.
Spoilers, I'm probably not.
Explain where the worms come from.
Yes.
Oh,
Uh,
a whole pack of them.
Sorry.
so let's assume for a moment. Well, I don't think we're going to assume because I think you're absolutely right. I think it was Rand's need that brought the Green Man to them. But the Green Man said some interesting things when he encountered the party.
Yeah. And I like that he mistakes Rand for an Aielman right away as well. Just like
Yeah,
Loyal and
What
Gawain
does he
and
say?
I had that one written down too.
Strange clothes you wear, child of the dragon.
Yeah.
Has the wheel turned so far? Do the people of the dragon return to the first covenant? But you wear a sword. That is neither now or then. So, a couple of things there. The clothing, right? You know, because the Gawain said to Rand and Caemlyn, you know, you put a shufa on your head and you're the spitting image of an Aielman. But also, you know, he's dropping terms like the people of the dragon and the first covenant and calling him the child of the dragon. So he's dropping all these things that are in context that the reader doesn't yet know about.
Yeah.
And those are things that will come to fruition later on.
Yep.
And also the comment about wearing a sword. But yeah, and then like, he also addresses Perrin and says he recognizes him as a wolf brother.
Yep.
And says, "Do the old times truly walk again?" Because I think when Perrin and Lan sat down and had their conversation, you know, Lan, or maybe it was Moraine, said that this was older than the One Power. You know, this talking
It was
to
ancient,
wolves. It
wasn't
was older than that. So, you know, for the Green Man to just recognize it, just looking at him for 10 or 15 seconds is, I mean, that was cool to me. I like that.
The Green Man is interesting. I can't really get a good feel for, like, he seems to have walked with or straight from the Creator. He is clearly one of the first beings in this world, or maybe outside of the world,
Or
but
at least one of the earliest, right?
right.
What were you expecting as a first-time reader before you met him? Because when I first read it, I was expecting like a tree beard or some sort of an ent type
Swamp thing.
character. Yeah, swamp thing.
Yeah. So I was expecting some sort of like semi or like demigod or some sort of like higher than man being that was relatively all powerful, that was the overseer of the eye. And that's kind of what I had pictured. I had not pictured any sort of, he's kind of powerful, but I mean, he has, he's more tied in with nature than I was expecting.
Yeah.
So he strikes me And reading it through this time, he almost gave me like a Tom Bombadil
Yeah.
vibe.
A little bit, yeah.
So, I
Well,
mean,
and
not so like carefree and sing-songy, but just
No,
the,
but-
just the presence, right?
But I did a little research just to kind of see where the idea of the Green Man came from, and it really, a lot of it comes from Celtic mythology and the imagery from there. But
Oh, that makes sense.
but it really represents life, decay, death, and rebirth is really
Sure.
kind of the full cycle. So, and we see that more in. We'll talk more about that in the next session because I think there's some things that happen that show more of that side of him. But you know, he's just an interesting character, and I think it's probably the next discussion too when he talks about the eye and how he really wasn't the one that was chosen to protect the eye. It was just he kind of was in the right place at the right time and the kind of the last.
It wasn't his purpose,
Yeah.
but he was the only one that could
Right.
do it. Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that next.
That'll
time,
be
too.
coming next episode.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Sorry.
We must be getting close to the end.
Yeah.
Just a little, yeah. So I think, you know, we discussed, and we've got this episode, we've got one more, and then probably one after that to wrap up the book. And I think, you know, we agreed that what we're going to do is we're then going to do one episode where we just talk about the book as a whole. Like, as a whole, how did it leave us? And don't worry, it won't be like a 3-hour discussion. But just a quick synopsis of, you know, above the trees, that 1,000-foot view, right?
Yep.
And then we also talked about taking what we know from Amazon's Wheel of Time series and kind of like piecing like concept art, leaked images, bits of information that they've let out and saying, okay, where do we think these things fit? How close do we think they're staying to the book? I think that's going to be kind of fascinating. Because we did learn just this week that it is going to debut in November of this year. So I'm excited. And they're throwing a lot of money at it, and they've already greenlit season 2.
Wow.
Yep.
So,
Very cool.
did we miss anything?
I'm sure we missed a lot, but
Okay.
I think we covered the big pieces.
Well, this is a perfect segue to say, hit the comment section. If you've been reading along or if you have a great knowledge and recollection of what happens right here, jump in, tell us what you liked, give us your analysis. Let's have that conversation in the comment section because we always like to do that. If you did enjoy this content, please click the like button. That thumbs up is very good for us. We recommend you hit the subscribe button, and there's a bell notification that'll let you know when we post new content so that you get notified. We will be back with you next week for chapters 50 and 51, but until then...
Allons-y.
Wait, where's the stop button?